Title today's conversation mind map: The real self shines forth as the illusion crumbles. The real self shines forth as the illusion crumbles. This was inspired by a specific passage in Scripture. It says, Ephesians 5:11, "Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. And what this means is, specifically, a while back, I received this wonderful book. It's called The Power of Kabbalah by Yuda Berg. Power of Kabbalah. It actually has a foreword written by Madonna. And in there, it talks about prior to time, it says there was this power, this infinite power, and it filled eternity. And there were no concepts such as time, space, or motion, because this boundless power was the only reality. There was nothing else, nothing. Just a pure, endless, all-pervading power of stillness. Now, what was this power made of? Fulfillment, peace of mind. These are ways we could describe it. Love, freedom, happiness, wisdom. Wisdom. So, this infinite power is all these things that we desire. And to prove the point, have you noticed, and we've been discussing this for years now, that when you know that you are already that, all these limiting, lack-based identifications placed upon consciousness, or as I say sometimes, conditions placed upon consciousness, dissolve. And what appears is your infinite perfection, your infinite fulfillment, in form, in actual form. Wonderful, fulfilling relationships, fulfilling business. Like we spoke about in Sunday's video, I don't know if you've seen it, I'll link in the description to it. I said, only fulfillment is real. Only fulfillment is real. Another way of saying it is we desire to experience the fulfillment of God. Yet the fulfillment of God appears in form as all these fulfilling experiences. So, have nothing to do, or as I say sometimes, do nothing, is articulated in this book as well. What it says is, don't react to let the light in. And this is what we've been talking about in Flow-Based Prosperity, in my school community. If you're interested in those, I'll link in the description to them, including the meetup that we had in Toronto on Saturday. If the individual is about to react to an appearance, which more specifically is the result of reactivity or triggering of a condition in mind placed upon consciousness, if the individual knows that they are about to react and they do nothing, as in dissolve that condition in that moment, they successfully apply what they mentioned in the book, and the ideal outcome happens. Now, this book was given to me in 2019. I still have this copy, by a very successful jeweler. And he said to me, it was a client of mine, he said, I would like you to read this book. I'm going to send it to you. And I said, of course I'm going to read the book. I've been studying Kabbalah for a while. And he sent me this book, and he said, promise you're going to read it. And I said, of course. Promise. So you can say he was very adamant about me reading it. So that particular point, that simplified statement, don't react to let the light in, I began to implement, which is very simple. Now I call it do nothing. Do nothing just means don't react. It doesn't mean try to control, because everything is already under control. As we've been discussing, I am nothing and I am everything at the same time. That is the truth. Being as is. You can do nothing to be as is. Everything is and isn't at the same time. So you just be as you are, not identified with the conditions, or the conditions fall away, and the light appears. Or you can say, I bring order to chaos. I bring chaos to order. How? By just existing. Truth just is. The real self shines forth radiantly. So that's why I titled the mind map, The Real Self Shines Forth as the Illusions Crumble, or the illusion crumbles. And this is a conversation I've been having with everybody that I meet. They're experiencing this. They say, they even use those exact words. The illusion is crumbling. The illusion is crumbling. It is crumbling because people are no longer identifying with illusory thinking that suggests that they need to be someone that they're not. They are already that which they desire to be. You are already that which you desire to be. You already have what you desire. As I always say, desire points to fulfillment. Because as mentioned, prior to time, you were completely fulfilled. Being completely fulfilled, you are now still completely fulfilled. So one way of saying it is you were completely fulfilled. It does not appear that way through conditioning in mind. So you are complete fulfillment. You are completely fulfilled. That which is, prior to all the conditions, you, the real self, is the complete fulfillment you were seeking for, and you are already that. And all these things, fulfilling experiences, fulfilling business, fulfilling relationships, are added on to you by grace and grace alone. I trust you experience it. I call it flow, as I say sometimes. What you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say, all these things happen naturally, effortlessly in flow. Or as I say in entrepreneurship, the parts that make up the whole, the physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, and relationships spontaneously emerge and appear to be in perfect harmony, as that is the way it is. It is that way. So we know what is. We just be as is. So don't react can sound like a thing to do. Yet I was doing that in the earlier stages, and then I found that I even stopped doing that. And by that I mean, very specifically, nuanced point, it is that way. The real self just shines forth as the illusions crumble. So practically speaking, everything appears to transform or rearrange in this world to reflect the real self, that perfection that you are. You are already that perfection. Now, if I say this, a person who does not know what is being spoken of right here, based on conditions in mind, they are not really thinking for themselves, may say, this condition externally, I need to look this way, I need to act this way, I need to have this physical possession, car, money, etc., and then I can be perfect. Look, you can do those things if you would like. You can have those things if you would like. As a matter of fact, they're added onto you by grace and grace alone. Yet you don't need those things in order to be perfect. You are that perfection that is witnessing all these things. That is the real self, and the real self is shining forth. All these things are being added onto you by grace and grace alone, as stated in the Bible. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added onto you. That's what they're talking about here. So again, I really like this passage in Scripture where it says, Ephesians 5:11, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them, which means just bring the light, or allow the light to be as the light was in the beginning. Genesis 1:3, the Peshitta Aramaic Bible translation. And God said, the light shall be, and the light was. I am that pure awareness. And where do you experience the light? Well, the light is pure consciousness. Where do you experience that light of God, the fulfillment of God? You experience it in consciousness, as all these things. very specifically put, all these things in perfect harmony. That's what I mean by I bring order to chaos. I bring chaos to order. Now, I don't know if you have my book. One of the things that I've been doing in the school community, and again, I'll link in the description to it if you're interested, is I've been going more deeper into the nuances of the various words and what I put into the book. And one of the chapters is dedicated to crafting delightful offers. Delightful offers. Why did I call it delightful offers in relation to what we're talking about here? Well, I made a post and I said, I am the light which orders the chaos. So I bring the chaos to order. Or another way of saying it is I find the order in chaos. And I don't actually do it. I can of myself do nothing. The Father would then do it to work. That's what it's meant by don't react to allow the light in. So what practical benefit does this have? So in chapter 3 of my book, I say, the way I define a delightful business and delightful offer is simple. A delightful business is one that you genuinely enjoy waking up each morning to be a part of. You love what you do. You love the people you work with. You love the clients you serve. And you're constantly, consistently having a wonderful time running your business. Beyond just the money, when your business is truly delightful, the money naturally flows more easily and effortlessly. It just flows to you. Giving and receiving are one. We've been discussing this. Ultimately and absolutely, they're one. All is in perfect harmony, fundamentally. It just doesn't appear that way through the conditioning, which is dissolving. The illusions, as I say, that appear to disappear. So delightful offers are those you genuinely enjoy providing to your clients. They're not just valuable in terms of service or transformation, they're infused with the energy you bring to delivering them, which is that radiant self-energy, the power. Your clients don't just receive your service, they feel your love, happiness, peace, bliss, and fulfillment through the experience. When you create offers that are delightful, you tap into the essence of building a business that brings joy not only to you, but to everyone you serve. When these offers reflect who you truly are, your business becomes a genuine expression of yourself, and that is just the way it is. So, I talk about various kinds of offers in the book, and not to get into specifics, that goes beyond the scope of our conversation here. Our conversation here is just about how the real self is continuously shining forth as all these things, whatever it may be, harmonious relationship, harmonious business. We've gotten to the point right now where the conditions just fall away on their own. We can call it mind-purifying mind. How effortless. So, I am the light which orders the chaos. The way I see it is each client we serve is already that absolute truth. It just appears like we're facilitating or helping them realize that they are not the conditions or the illusions of separation, etc., to realize truth to greater degrees, into form as the results they truly desire. So now, as I said, I bring order to chaos. Look at the word order, order. What happens with a prospect when they become a client is they place an order. They place an order for your product or service, and you deliver on that order, bringing forth what we can call the order. That's what I meant by I bring order to chaos. That's what the entrepreneur does. They transmute seeming problems into solutions. The clients benefit greatly. You benefit greatly. Wonderful compensation. You bring order to chaos. Now, all of that happens effortlessly, naturally, in flow. So how does one apply everything that we're talking about right now practically? How do you practically do nothing? It's funny to say it like that. How do you practically do nothing? Or as they say in the book, don't react to allow the light in. So you're in a conversation with a prospect, with a client, a relationship partner, a friend, etc., or you're interacting with them. They may say something, not say something, do something, not do something, etc. All of these appearances. We're taught in the Bible, do not judge by appearances. So, from the premise of being completely fulfilled, as in I need nothing, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. What happens is we're engaging in a conversation. God plays all roles. Only God alone exists. Only God alone exists, animating everything in perfect harmony. Now, the individual can generate interference patterns subconsciously through the conditioning in mind and generate resistance in the body, conflict, etc. That is not the way it fundamentally is. Everything is in perfect harmony. Giving and receiving are one. The client and the service are one. The service provider and the service recipient are one. Or the relationship together, you are as one. There's no other. It just appears that way. It just appears as this person, that person, but fundamentally, ultimately, and absolutely, there is no other. There's only the perfect light appearing more so. Or we can call it, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, or heaven on earth appearing more so. It just doesn't appear that way through the conditioning, which is dissolving, which again, the real self is shining forth as the illusions crumble. Conditions just fall away. They just fall away. And part of it is the appearances can transform, but the individual may try to hold on to the appearances. Let them be. Again, the Peshitta Aramaic Bible translation, we return back to the beginning, or you can call it the end if you would like. Same difference. Return back to the center, divine center. Center being what is. You are that. From this pure awareness, what shines forth is the light of awareness, the pure consciousness. Genesis 1:3, and God said, the light shall be, and the light was. We practically not react to allow the light in. Now, what happens is if about to react to what they say, do, don't do, that's just conditioning or being triggered by conditioning, however way you want to look at it. But just let it be. Let the emotions release. Don't identify with those thoughts of lack or limitation or whatever thoughts that spawn from that conditioning. Body relaxes, emotions release, and clarity emerges. Absolutely it does. All of a sudden the conversation becomes harmonious, but it didn't appear harmonious before through that conditioning. That's why I always say it's interesting to see or observe how distorted reality appears through that conditioning. And so all these things appear to be in disharmony. The relationships, the friendships, life experiences through that conditioning. We just dissolve the conditioning, the conditions placed upon consciousness. You do nothing to dissolve it. The individual thinking they are the doer of the works thinks they need to do this or that. And I can honestly say this book is very powerful. You literally just let it be, and it transforms. How simple is that? It transforms. And I don't know what it's going to transform as for you. All I know for me is I've seen particular kinds of things. Like, for example, I've seen the individual all of a sudden have a conversation where I really listen to them. It's like before I may have been placing these conditions. No, they need to think this way or they need to act this way. But then all of a sudden I really deeply relate with them lovingly. And it turns into, we can say, a harmonious relationship. In business, we find the mutually beneficial harmony point. So, for example, in prospecting or during sales presentations, rather than trying to convince them, you listen, you may say some things, they may say some things. Again, what you say, what you don't say, what you do, what you don't do, happens naturally in flow. Yet what emerges is clarity as to how to order the chaos. The chaos that they say, they claim to be experiencing chaos, I'm confused, etc. The order just naturally emerges. It just naturally emerges by not reacting. In other words, they say something, the individual might think, what I have is not good enough, or I am not good enough. See, what I have seen a number of times is, let's say, if the product that I have is not a match for them, I'm not going to force them to buy that product. I can refer them. Here's one example. I could refer them to a business that actually has a product or service that they can benefit from, and I get a percentage on that. And I don't even have to allocate my team members' relationships and assets, physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, those resources. I don't even have to allocate those resources to fulfill on that order. The business partner does it. And I get a referral fee. Practically speaking, from my IT business back in the days, I received a phone call from a hospital, and they wanted an infrastructure put in. Rather than trying to figure out how to put it all together and deliver, considering all the liability and everything involved, it just felt right. The idea just naturally emerged to contact another tech company. We worked a deal out. They acquired the client. They have the infrastructure, they have the team, they have the round-the-clock support, they have everything. And they gave me a recurring revenue split. That was a considerable amount because it was a big deal. That I was getting checks every single month for a whole year. And all I did was not react. The creator sent the light. I didn't think, oh, I'm not going to be able to come up with a solution for these individuals looking for, representing the hospital, that department that was looking for the solution. I didn't think that. I said, some way, somehow, you could say, even though I didn't say that. But that's a practical example of what they're talking about here. Now, we see this in relationships. We see this in day-to-day life. All kinds of things. As I always say, if you think, really think for yourself from the premise of fulfillment, or don't think at all. Because either way, it works. I can honestly say it. Sometimes I may imagine what that solution is like. I just naturally imagine what that solution is like. And then it appears. Or sometimes I might not. I'm not going to try to imagine and force myself to imagine something when I know that by letting it be as it was in the beginning, now, and ever shall be. Again, Genesis 1:3. And God said, the light shall be, and the light was. Peshitta Aramaic Bible translation. I am that pure awareness, and my real nature is fulfillment. Only fulfillment is real. It just doesn't appear that way through the conditioning in mind. If identified with, it generates suffering, illusions of separation, conflict, that, us versus them kind of thinking. If I had that us versus them kind of thinking, I'd have thought, no, I'm going to try to fulfill on this. I didn't really want to fulfill on that deal, honestly. I just wanted a wonderful revenue split, really. And I didn't want to do the work. I wanted to do another kind of work, yet what they were asking for, that other company wanted to do it. And they gave me a revenue split. But if I said, oh, they're competition. As a matter of fact, they were the ones that acquired a number of my clients when I transitioned out of my IT business in 2013. If I saw them as a competition, us versus them, those opportunities, even though that they're there, I wouldn't see them. I was calling this, I don't know if you watched the video that I released on Tuesday on my other channel where I speak about entrepreneurship. I'll link a description to it. Elusive obvious. Elusive obvious. The opportunities are there. Because reality, which is fundamentally perfect as it is now, the light is perfect as it is now, and you are that appearing in form here as the light of awareness. Yet prior to that, which is the light of awareness, consciousness, prior to that, you are that pure awareness, and so you are perfection. Your real nature is perfection. You are that perfection. That which is the perfection. And so perfect is it that I don't even know how perfect it is. Can you tell me how perfect you are? No matter what you say about how perfect you are, we could say there's more to you than that. There's more perfection than that. So elusive obvious is interesting, the word elusive obvious. or elusive obvious, is solutions or opportunities, we can say, that are right in front of us, that are so natural, but the individual may overlook them because they're looking at the world through the lens of particular limiting beliefs, conditions placed upon consciousness in mind. Yet maybe another person can see it. They're like, why didn't they just do that deal? That was such easy money. That was right on the table. They left money on the table. Well, in all fairness, they didn't see it because they were identified with the particular condition. So what is interesting, I have found, and I had brought this up earlier, is we have gotten to a point now, you have gotten to a point now, and you and I know different. And anyone that I discuss in this video, we're not different. Fundamentally, we're the same. We just appear different, but doesn't mean we don't have this ability. So what I have noticed is that now we have a higher degree of ability, or so it appears this way for me, and everyone that I've been speaking with about this recently. So thus I trust you as well. We have a heightened degree of awareness to be able to know if we're about to identify with conditioning. That fight, that flight, that freeze, that fawn response, or whatever kind of theater based on conditioning that would play out if we identified with it. If it arises through thoughts appearing in mind, we don't identify with them. It suggests limitation. If emotions arise, we don't create stories around the emotions. We let them release. If body tenses up, maybe I was about to become identified with the condition. So I know right in that moment, let it be. And then we see those opportunities, which again, we can call them elusive obvious. They're right there. Right there. And it's interesting about this conditioning too, because if the individual identifies with the conditioning, they may look elsewhere for the opportunities. They may get involved with some instant gratification or get-rich-quick schemes or whatever kind of stuff. And for whatever the reason may be, they don't bear fruit. They're like, why? That's the conditioning. It's constantly, if identified with, resulting in the individual seeking outwardly for the fulfillment that they already are. So dissolve the conditioning and the opportunities are right there. They just show up right in front of your face. They were always there, actually. That's what I mean by I bring order to chaos. As entrepreneurs, that's what we do. The seeming chaos, some like to say it, but I don't have a problem with the word chaos. It just doesn't appear orderly through the conditions in mind, but that's okay. I don't need to try to figure it out. I can do nothing to figure it out. That's a nuanced point. As in, I don't identify. Be still in the Bible. Stillness, silence. Don't think. Know in the moment. Truth, thy truth. Truth is thy lamp, and the truth is the light. I am the truth, I am the light, and the light reveals itself. As you can say, an offer, we're talking about delightful offers, as a business idea, or something that changes in the relationship. How great is this? We're at this point now, we don't have to try to figure it out. We don't have to force ourselves to believe particular things because we think that that is the way it has to be. I need to do this or that in order to be who I desire to be. You are already that which you desire to be. You are all that you desire to be, actually. That which is you prior to all conditions, completely fulfilled. That's why I've been saying lately, you are completely fulfilled. You are completely fulfilled. I don't say it because I'm trying to convince you. I don't say it because I'm trying to convince myself. I came to that realization as the conditions fell away, that what remained is that complete fulfillment. And you literally feel it in the body. In Vedic teachings, it's called Satchit Ananda, existence consciousness bliss, or truth consciousness bliss. Bliss for no reason, happiness for no reason, fulfillment for no reason, yet it appears in form, as mentioned, according to the book here. And not just according to the book, from personal experience and everyone that I've spoken with. It appears in form as all these things. Seek ye first the kingdom and all these things shall be added on to you. And that could sound like a thing to do. Seek ye first the kingdom. You are already that. That which is prior to body, mind, thoughts in mind, emotions, etc., that remains eternally fulfilled as is. That is you. So now be as you are. That's it. So in those moments, if about to identify with conditioning, if you're about to identify with conditioning, know who is the only one that could identify with the conditioning, the illusory I. Prior to the conditioning, I am. I am prior to this conditioning, and my real nature is fulfillment. Thus, you are prior to the conditioning, and your real nature is fulfillment. How do you know your real nature is fulfillment? How do you know the real self is completely fulfilled? Because it naturally shines forth, your style, which is the best style. And speaking about entrepreneurship, it appears as your style of how I segment it: innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership, optimization, automation, delegation, elimination, prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, ongoing business with existing clients. Yes, you may read a book or watch some videos and then resonate with some of the information out there and say, oh yeah, that one feels right. Yes, because you checked in with yourself in the moment, because you know who you are. So of course it's going to feel right. Of course you're going to say it resonates, because you know who you are, just being as you are. That's one of the benefits of the illusions crumbling. Not only do we let all these things happen, which is, we know, rearranging to reflect our vision, we also have enormous amount of clarity, and we listen exclusively to the still small voice. So we had this conversation as well on Monday in Flow-Based Prosperity. We said, we have come to the point where we know that all wisdom is within. We can get every answer we're looking for within. Yes, it can appear outward in a book, etc. Yet even if the individual doesn't have a book or a video or teacher or guru, they can access that wisdom within, because they are that wisdom that they were seeking for their whole life. Again, find out what is and be as is. That is the eternal, absolute wisdom of God. Even in the book they said it, right? What was the light in the beginning prior to time? Wisdom. Wisdom. Thus, you are wisdom. I trust you notice this as well. You listen to yourself more, you trust yourself, you really think for yourself. There's no confusion in mind, or less and less confusion in mind as those conditions fall away by simply existing. It's kind of funny to say that, simply existing. You do exist. You just now exist prior to the conditions, or that's also kind of funny to say it. You always existed as that eternal fulfillment prior to the conditions. It's just now you know you are absolutely not these conditions, and you choose not to place any more limitation or lack-based conditioning in mind, because it doesn't make any sense anymore. It does not represent you. You do nothing to be you, and the real self shines forth as all these illusions crumble. That is the way it is. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto suggestion to further encourage. You could say, I know what is, and I remain as is. Being as is, everything appears to be in harmony with me. People, environments, circumstance, information, all appear to be in harmony with me as I remain as I am, as is. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.